Just like a massive pig comes running around the corner, full speed.
He was just doing his, everything was moving.
It was just so funny. Yeah. Both of us like turned and saw this, and we were like, "Oh my god!" We're like, "Dear God, this guy's gonna come running into the table." It was so funny.
Welcome everyone to episode 85 of the Mashup, the best bourbon conversation you're going to hear all week long. We're your hosts, Anthony and Steven. Anthony, hello.
Hello, Steven. How are you?
Well, I'm enjoying our post-Halloween recording.
Oh, yeah, the Halloween celebration.
Yes.
I was going to say, oh, yeah. That was a success, wouldn't you say?
Yep. For all of you that don't know, the Mashup on Halloween sets out a nice adult table in the court that I live at.
Yeah.
It's always a good sign when people turn the corner and they see two tables, a child's table and an adult table.
Yeah, so this tradition actually just started last year. So This is the second annual adult table that's been sent out. I mean, there's a lot of candy. I've never seen so much candy in my entire life for the kids.
It's absurd.
It's like the neighbors put out so much candy that like I think they're like begging people to take it by the end of the night. But so this kids table and the adult table set up adjacent to one another, right? And we sit at the adults table with our little podcast sign with various amounts of bourbons. And so can you tell our listening audience the spread that we put out for the Halloween extravaganza?
I can get us halfway there.
Okay, all right. I'll see if I can fill in the blanks.
So the left-hand couple of tables are kids' tables.
Yeah.
And then we have a space separation. Mm-hmm. Then we have an adult-only sign.
Yeah.
That may be handmade and not that large.
and most of the kids don't see it, so they come over to the alcohol table and I'm like, well, can I have one of these?
and then it followed by sangria.
Yep.
Jello shots.
Yes, an array of Jello shots. That was many Jello shots.
And then a nice table of bourbon.
Yeah, and in that table of bourbon, I think we had Bullet 95 rye.
Yes. We
had a New Riff Balboa rye. We had Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. We also had a Jackson Wine and Spirit Maker's Mark pick. We had Woodford Reserve. What else did we have?
We had a Baker's 7.
Oh, yeah, the Baker's. That was very popular. People really liked that Baker's.
And then an Old Scout.
Oh, yeah. So we had an Old Scout pick from our friends over there at Mythical. That's a group that a guy by the name of Chad Huffman has that I'm a part of online. And Mythical does some killer picks. And so that was our Halloween table. Do you remember what bottle came out on top? We had like different tiers of bottles that people liked.
Yeah, there were three that were kind of in the top tier that everyone kind of wanted to try. It was the New Riff and the Baker's, and it was the Elijah Craig?
I think the Elijah Craig,
okay.
Yeah. It seemed like as soon as people saw Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, this is the reaction we got. Like, people like, oh, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Yeah, pour me that.
And then I think after that, it was the Old Scout and the Makers?
Yeah, I think the Old Scout and Makers kind of, and people were really surprised by the Old Scout. So big ups to Smooth Ambler there. Mm-hmm. I know we've talked about them in a previous episode, but people really like that pick. So I guess that's a testament to Mythical and to Smooth Ambler's distillate they got over there. But people were like very surprised by it. They hadn't seen it before, and they're like, "Yeah, I'd like to try that." And then they did, and they were like, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah.
So, but the whole premise, basically, for those who maybe didn't listen to our post Halloween episode last year, is we just set the bourbon out. We're there to talk about our podcast. We want people to know about us, but we also just want to spread the love and to cheer and let people have a pour while they're out trick-or-treating with their kids. And so we probably had maybe like, how many people would you say, like 30 or some more come by?
I would say more than that.
Yeah, probably maybe up to 50. But the funniest thing was that one guy. Do you remember the one guy that kept coming back? Like as soon as he found out, he wasn't really there for the bourbon. He was there for the Jello shots. You remember that dude?
Yeah. he was like an older guy.
Yeah.
And he took a couple, and then he came back with his wife.
Yeah,
and then they had one.
And then he came back with his like son-in-law or somebody. And he just kept coming back like, "Here's what I told you about." I mean, he was our biggest fan there, I think.
And what about the best costume that we saw?
Oh God! So let me set the stage for you here. So we set up the table. We start getting a couple of trick-or-treaters and happy adults coming through. We had a couple pours ourselves.
and I think at this point we hit one of the little lulls between rushes.
Yeah. So we didn't have much to do, and out of nowhere, we look over, and you know those big costumes that are like blow-up kind of costumes where people can move in them, but you can't really tell who's in there. What was it, like a pig?
It was like a pig.
It was just like a massive pig comes running around the corner, full speed.
He was just doing this. Everything was moving.
It was just so funny. Both of us like turned and saw this, and we were like, "Oh my god!" We're like, "Dear God, this guy's gonna come running into the table." It was so funny, and of course, it was some little kid with a great costume, and it was really funny.
He was going to the other table.
Yeah,
not ours.
Yeah, but it was funny how many kids did show up to our table that we had to turn away. I'm like, "What are we doing here?" Like, can I have one of those? We're like, no. We're like, parents, get your kids and come over here and have a drink.
That's 2 years in a row that I think we got to come up with a better system.
Yeah, we do.
I don't know if we just need to do more space separation.
Yeah, I think so.
Or just multiple times.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. Maybe we have one of those squirt bottles and we just squirt them when they come by it.
Hey, get out of here. I like it.
Anthony, I like to give out some really good shout outs from our social media based off our Halloween post.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we didn't have the formal sort of Apple podcast reviews or maybe a Facebook review, but we did have some good engagement on our Halloween post. So I guess surprisingly or not surprisingly, when we posted the picture of us sitting behind a table of booze of the bourbon, we had quite a bit of engagement. And so the interaction that we had from our post on Facebook was actually a fellow by the name of Kevin from New Hampshire. He was interested in knowing who's responsible for the hello at the beginning, which I thought was hilarious. And he said, I guess the orange shirt guy,
yeah. So,
which was Steven.
Yeah, I'm going to be known as that orange shirt guy.
Orange shirt guy. So I thought that was hilarious. I told him he correctly guessed, and then he said, that's a brilliant podcast you guys have, by the way, so we appreciate that. And
thanks, quote, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Good job. And then actually Philip from Alabama, who I think we've given a shout out in the past, said that he wished he lived closer so he could partake in the Halloween festivities. And he said, but he also mentioned that he could listen to the podcast every Friday, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, wish you were here.
Yeah.
We have plenty of leftovers.
Make a trip next year. Come down for Halloween. We invite all of our listeners to do that. So we love those interactions and reviews and stuff, so keep them coming.
And if anyone wants to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or any social media, we'll give you a shout out next time we record. So, Anthony, for this week, we have a very special bottle. We have a bottle of King of Kentucky 15-year.
This is from the Brown-Forman distillers in Louisville, Kentucky. The bottle date is 2022. The ABV is 64.45. Proof is 130.9. The age is 15 years. The mash bill is 79% corn, 11% rye, and 10% malted barley. And the MSRP on this is actually officially listed at $250, but most places that I've heard that have had it at retail is $299, and dare I share that the secondary price on this is $1,200 to $1,500 doll hairs.
Damn.
Yeah, you can say damn, because I would say damn.
So this is not located on the bottom shelf at the store.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think this is probably in a locked box somewhere, maybe in a safe or something along those lines. Right. But
so it's not going like Kentucky Tavern and then King Kentucky on the bottom shelf, is it?
No. Okay. Actually, it's not even like Cabin Still is another one like that. Gosh. No. It's I can't really even disclose how I got this bottle. I think that's a trade secret. So if you want to know, you can contact us, and we might give you secret knowledge. That's part of our Patreon support. You can message us and we'll tell you how you can strike out on bottle after bottle. But speaking of this bottle,
well, first you can't see the bottle because it's in its own cardboard sleeve.
Yeah, and what a decorative, nice sleeve it is.
It is. I mean, it's very handsome.
Yeah. It's what color would you say this is? Is this like a
off-white cream?
Off-white cream, and then they got. Do you see this guy's little face up here?
It looks like the king on a classic deck of cards.
Yeah, it does actually. Actually, I think that Bicycle is going to sue Brown-Forman now. They're like, hey, that looks like it has a striking resemblance to the king on the deck of cards, so we're going to keep it. That's awesome. But it has this like almost like a stamp-looking ticket kind of thing.
You got to look at the whole thing. So we have the king.
All right.
Then the word king almost looks circusy. And then you have like a little ticket for the annual release. So they got a little circus theme going on.
Do you think so? Is that what it is?
I'm going to go with that.
They're clowning us. Is that what it is?
That's it, yeah.
Being clowned. But it is a really nice tube, and it actually says that you need to drink responsibly.
At 130.
Especially, 130.9. That means you have to drink responsibly. But that's a nice tube. That's actually one of the... There's few bourbons that come in tubes like this.
Yeah.
And that's a nice tube.
I think this looks actually a little thicker of a tube than E.H. Taylor.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a little bit wider.
Yeah.
Would you call it wider?
Yeah, I would call that. But it looks good.
Yeah, it does.
But then when you take it out, so it's wax, it's black wax on top, very shiny, shimmery black wax finish. It reminds me of the Evan Williams single barrel.
You know, that's a really good comparison. It looks like the wax job they do on that from Heaven Hill does that one.
Nice clean edge on it, and just very shiny, and just the top part of it, yeah.
It's surprising, though, because they say these are all hand-dipped and numbered, and I'm like, if that's hand-dipped, the people that are doing it are taking some extra care, because I'll tell you right now, if I was dipping some bottles in wax, there'd be wax all over the damn place.
How do they keep that line? Is it some sort of tape, or they just dip it and then they hang them upside down to let them dry?
There has to be something to it. There's no way that's
because obviously if you turn it around, you're going to get sued by makers.
Yeah,
but then if you leave it upside down, it's obviously going to have some sort of like stalactite thing happening on top.
Well, these are notorious for having the wax break, right? So
cheap,
when people try to sell them, not that you ever should try to do that, but when people try to sell them, they always say typical hairline crack on the wax.
Oh, typical,
yeah, like as if it's to be expected. So, that's the handwritten. It's all handwritten, except for Chris Morris's signature. I guess if that's handwritten, it looks very well done. It looks like it's machined to me. Like everything else is handwritten, but Chris Morris's signature, unless he's a master penman, it looks like it's printed on there. But everything else is like it says bottle number 93 of 107, age 15 years. It also has the buzzword on the front that we're most interested in, which is
non-chill filter.
Oh yeah, non-chill filtered. Because I mean, if it was chilled filtered, this would probably be a really, really, really bad whiskey. So nice job on the packaging.
Yeah, I agree. And we can't ignore the color of it.
That's true. Just right out of the gate, looking at the color of the bourbon in the bottle, it's like
super dark.
Really dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I would even call it like a dark cherry or mahogany.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got like a really nice look to it. And it's very, very good.
Very like poppy off the white label.
Yeah. Maybe that's intentional, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you look at it and it's surrounded by this off-white, it really pops. Yeah, you're right. That's really good, man. You could be in bourbon marketing, you know?
Just call me up.
Is that the engineering, the side of you coming out? You're like, I could do retail engineering.
Brown-Forman, just DM me.
There you go, right? So the guy's ready. He's ready to do your next King of Kentucky packaging. Call him up. So, Stephen, the King of Kentucky was established in 1881, the brand itself by John G. Roach Distilling Company. I wonder what the Roach family is doing now and if if they're missing their King of Kentucky label. But Brown-Forman acquired the brand in 1936 from Selected Kentucky Distillers, Inc., and by 1940 converted it to a blended whiskey. Oh, my God. Until it was discontinued in 1968. So basically, this was a trash whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So way to go, Brown-Forman. You got a trash whiskey, and then you must have been feeling some guilt, right? So in 2018, they revived the label by paying homage to the brand's past. That's kind of how we got King of Kentucky. So it's one of those old label, forgotten about, nobody probably cares. I don't know if the original stuff is any good. Some dusty drinker out there could probably set it straight. But what I was most interested at when I was looking at this history of the brand was, first of all, there's a person involved, John G. Roach Distilling. Why isn't John G. Roach purchased and put in Buffalo Trace somewhere, right? Shouldn't Buffalo Trace have purchased his name and made him in. I'm just joking. You're looking at me like, where are you going with this?
Well, I'm just thinking, was there no like distinguished black and white picture of him, and that's why we have the playing card picture on the front?
Maybe that might be it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was originally part of it or not, but I don't know. I just thought if there's a person involved and Buffalo Trace didn't buy them and make them into some expensive brand, then I'm not cool with that. So, do you know? Like, I was thinking about this while we were talking. So, Brown-Forman owns a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, they do.
I mean, we got what, like Jack Daniels and what else? Like
Woodford,
yeah, and Old Forester,
yeah,
amongst others. And so, when I was thinking about that, I'm looking at the mash bill here: 79% corn, 11% rye, and 10% malted barley. It took me a second. I was trying to think, like, is that part of any of their major brands, like that we're talking about, like Forester, Woodford? Like, where are these stocks coming from? And so we did a little bit of pre-episode research, and I made Steven go into the archives. And what did you find out, sir?
Oh, man. Well, that's kind of funny that I mentioned this is next to the bottom shelf.
Yes.
When we opened it up, and that was not intentional until now. But so this had the same mash bill as everyone's favorite Early Times.
Oh yeah, Early Times.
Now that's in the 1 liter.
Oh yeah, the 1 liter that's now not even owned by Brown-Forman anymore. So I wonder if there's like a punk move too, where Brown-Forman like sold Early Times off to Buffalo Trace, as we know.
Yeah.
And everyone's complaining, saying it tastes different. Guess what? It doesn't taste any different, at least not right now. So don't say it does. If you feel like that out there, then come talk to me. There's something wrong with your palate. I'm just kidding. But Early Times, so if they kept that mash bill with all the nice ultra premium age stuff, and then they sold the brand off to Buffalo Trace, what's going to stop them from releasing like maybe a younger variant of King of Kentucky? What if there's like King of Kentucky Light coming out in the future, like that replaces the Early Times, and everyone's like a cult favorite? Because
I mean, they have the 15, 18-year-old. I mean, how much younger can they get when they're premium ages are that old?
Makes me wonder like what they're doing over there and what kind of stocks they have, because some of the stuff they do with this is just absolutely insane.
Well, should we go for our first notes?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting ready to taste this thing, man. It's just, I'm looking at it, I'm getting excited.
Nah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, holy mother of
not ethanol.
Yeah, not ethanol, right? For 130.9, and you're not getting a lot of ethanol. You're getting straight pleasure notes from this glass.
I think I picked up a new note, but are you getting some sort of like cherry, like vanilla bean note out of it?
Yeah, there's definitely a really rich, some kind of dark fruit, maybe a cherry, and you're spot on with vanilla bean, vanilla extract. I'm getting a lot of heavy char.
Oh, yeah.
And not like in a way that's bad. So sometimes you get something that's over oaked. This is not
like a luxury.
This is like luxury char.
Yeah.
Like if I took the ash, and the ash was made up of brilliant tobacco, very rich barrel notes, and the vanilla just like married together with like this just amazing floral, not even floral. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just
a huge amount of brown sugar.
Oh, brown
huge.
Sugar. Massive. Yeah. Big pop of brown sugar. I don't think in 80 some episodes here that we've nosed anything this great. I don't know. You're the king of the nosing, and
I'm just astonished at the proof that, I mean, we can easily nose this thing.
Yeah, there's not even going in for even a big nose, and I have a big nose.
Get that bad boy in there.
Get that in there. Yeah, it's nothing but like just really nice, almost next level type of like nosing that I'm not used to. I'm just not used to that richness of a nose, especially on a more modern bourbon. Like I've had the opportunity to taste some really nice older stuff with a couple of really good friends who are fortunate enough to have that stuff and let me taste it and nose it. But for modern bourbon, I'm not sure if I ever nosed anything like this. Maybe even like BTAC.
Yeah. And you picked up a great note earlier before we started recording.
Yeah.
With the tobacco.
Oh, tobacco's all over this.
It's a very good version of the tobacco leaf.
Okay.
I think we both agreed it was after it's been in the barn.
Yep.
And it's been dried out for a while. And then you go into the barn, and it's just this really like heavy earth note that's in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like not earthy in a way, like sometimes you get stuff that's earthy, but it almost tastes like dirty and grass.
Not that.
This is like well antique aged wood tobacco. I don't even know if I'd say leather. Not really leather, but more of the tobacco variety. Just very robust. Robust is the best way to describe this.
Yeah.
Like just hits all the senses.
Yeah, this is a very just rich overall note.
Oh yeah,
notes in this bad boy.
The crazy thing about this release, so this is a 2022 King of Kentucky, and Brown-Forman, because they're not only making good bourbon over there, they're thinking about marketing as well. This is the 5th anniversary since they resurrected the brand, and so they actually released 2 versions of this. So we have the more common variety.
Oh, there's an upper echelon version.
Yeah, right. There's something actually more sought after than this. So here's some crazy specs for all of you out there.
Is it the same card, the Card King on there? Or are we moving up to like a Joker at that point? Or is it the Spade King?
I think. Oh, actually, yeah, it might be the Spade King.
It might be Spade King.
It's not the king with a sword through the head. That'd be the bottom shelf stuff, right? The Suzanne King. Anyway,
that's the early times.
Oh, but yeah, actually, this 15-year version, the one we're going to be tasting here in a second, this is actually result of dumping 43 barrels that yields approximately 3,500 bottles. That's the highest bottle count to date that they've released in any given year.
Wow.
So, I know that you're an engineer and everything, or test your math skills here. Do you know approximately that means 3,500 bottles and they dumped 43 barrels? That means the average yield of a barrel was?
88, I think, right?
That's close, yeah. I think it's 80, maybe like 80 to 84 or so. Which,
that's it.
I try to math, but I don't math very well.
That's it.
So that's crazy to think about that. And then the limited bottling they released this year, the special one, I think was only 2 or 3 barrels, 18-year stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It yielded 250 bottles. So
we went from the highest yield of 3,500 to a measly 250.
Well, that's for the special limited 18-year version. Yeah, exactly. So can you imagine you have one of those bottles? I mean, I know a couple people have posted them as proxies for people online, but I'm just like, dang, I don't know how those taste, but I'd love to taste them.
What's the proof on the 18-year?
I think it varies, just like this one.
Okay.
Like I've seen some as low as 120, like low 120s. Mm-hmm. I've seen some as high, I think, as 135. So I think it just varies between or depending on what the single barrel is. And that's another thing too important to note before we taste this. This is a single barrel product, guys. So guys and gals out there, if you're listening, this could vary by bottle because, there's some ultra short barrels that I've seen. Like I think one year I saw one that was like under 10 bottles out of one barrel. I was like, I can only imagine what that tastes like when it's non-chill filtered and only get 10 bottles out of a barrel. That's crazy.
So just before we get this, I forgot if we've mentioned this, but this bottle they have is Barrel 6, Rick 50, Warehouse H, Location 7.
I'm not sure what Location 7 means.
I don't either. Well, let's get this bad boy tasted.
Woo. So, woo-hoo.
Coming from no ethanol, and this being a low rye, basically mash bill, right?
Yeah,
that spice hit you.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised at how spicy this is.
Mm-hmm.
Like rye spices, baking spices, very spicy palate in a good way. I'm not going to lie, I like it.
You do like your eyes.
I do, and I also like that char is carrying over. It's actually like a drying, deep, tannic, well-aged char, like aged oak, like a very well-aged oak that's like sticking out, like almost like luscious. I've never used luscious as a tasting note, but it's luscious. It's like a pillow.
I do like it. It is semi-dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's got this. Okay, so we talk about Kentucky hug, right, where it goes down your esophagus and kind of you can feel the warmth of it.
Yeah.
What are we going to call when it just stays on your tongue? Is that called? Do we have a term for this?
I don't know. I just think that's one hell of a finish. That's all I can really say. Like this
is wild. The hug is gone, and the hug is not short.
Yeah,
but yet it is still tingling on my tongue.
Yeah, the flavors are just like ever present. Like they're not dissipating at all.
No.
It's almost like I'd liken it to the fact, and I know in previous episodes I've said I'm not really a cigar smoker, but if you smoke a really good cigar and you can taste it on your lips and your mouth and whatnot, you taste that for like quite a long time, and that's a lot what people like about smoking cigars. This almost has that feel to it where it's like, man, that flavor is not going anywhere anytime soon. It's like, smack my lips, I'm still tasting it.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Wild.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to note about the flavors here is that like you get a lot of classic bourbon flavors. Like I definitely get like a caramel. I think a little bit of that tobacco transfers over, but everything is like burnt. And when I say it's burnt, it's not burnt like in a way like, oh, you burnt toast, because burnt toast is terrible. It's like a singed everything's like singed and caramelized. That's the best way to put it, I think. Like it's just carrying like some massively amazing barrel notes for me.
On the nosing, we both agreed it's very char, very oaky.
Yep.
And that's coming through. And I guess maybe it's just like, and even the brown sugar is very heavy brown sugar.
Oh, yeah.
So it could just go in with the caramelization of everything. And
I think so.
And the charring.
I mean, it really is. I mean, I don't think that I've ever used this language, but it's masterful. Like it's a masterful flavor, and it just stays with you for a long time.
So I think we're both going to say this is a pretty special bottle.
Yeah, I agree.
And we know how many bottles come from, I guess, the annual yield of this, right?
Yeah, they put in a press release.
So how does this kind of compare to the other top of the line bottles? Let's say like your BTAC yields or your birthday yields or your little book yields.
Yeah.
Like how does this like 3,500 bottles, how does that compare in relation to those other once a year releases?
Well, I think it's tough because if I remember correctly, back when they started in 2018, I think their yield was just around 1,000 bottles for King Kentucky alone. Mm-hmm. So that's ultra limited compared to where they're at now. And they're still pretty limited. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Buffalo Trace used to actually include how many bottles. They had estimated bottle counts. And I could be wrong here, but I want to say that like the bottles like GTS and stuff like that were between 10 and 12,000.
Oh, wow. Much higher.
Yeah, much higher. But I think Buffalo Trace stopped releasing the information it was letting people estimate the barrel count. I mean, the bottle counts. Yeah. And so I don't think that they do estimated bottle counts anymore and don't release that information to the press. I don't think Van Winkle does either. Little Book, I think they produce quite a few of those. Other limited releases. I think Birthday's probably around the same amount
as this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that. Someone can nail me on that. But I feel like limited releases used to be between 1,000 and 2,000 bottles, and now the count has been upped, which makes sense. But there's still some that are really limited. I mean, and you occasionally get these ones that are like, 500 bottles. That's it. I mean, not saying it's good because there's only 500 bottles of it, but
and they're all pretty much in the same like vintage category, right? Because some of the BTACs have higher aged stuff in it, and same thing with the Little Book. It kind of like blends all that higher age stuff with it. I don't know what the birthdays are.
Yeah, birthdays have been creeping up in age. I mean, I think the one this year, the 2022 is 11 year, I think. But
okay,
I mean,
so it's
again,
still
that's
younger than this.
Yeah, but that's 11 is the age statement because that's the youngest bourbon that's in there. They probably do have some older bourbon that's in there.
Yeah.
And then like I know Four Roses, for example, their LE, we can't forget about Four Roses. They release every year. The age on that's been creeping up, and you've seen the age of the single barrels Four Roses is releasing creeping up. So I think that the latest two blends that they've done have had stuff in it that's almost 20 years old.
I just like how the demand for bourbon has gone up exponentially.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden these bottles can get older and older. I'm like, where's all this crap coming from?
Exactly. I mean, who was it? Was it we had a little text aside with Michael earlier today, and he was saying something about Old Fitz 19. He said, how much aged product does Heaven Hill have? And I said, probably a lot.
You know,
They're just holding out on us.
I'm gonna start looking at these rick houses that we see everywhere as as like icebergs. Like what you see on top is like only 5% of what the warehouse actually is.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like it's just insane because, you know, I've heard rumors that some distillers are like out of aged product, but I just don't believe it. I mean, they keep bringing out premium aged stuff, and really when you think about it, when you think about 43 barrels, I don't know the ins and outs of business when it comes to the bourbon industry, but if you're dumping 43 barrels to get $3,500 bottle, 3,500 bottles, and you can still charge $2.99 a bottle and make good money on that, seems kind of crazy to me.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the tax that's been paid on that barrel and everything else, and the fact that you got some barrels that you dumped. The first year they did this, I remember they said that like 2 barrels they tried to dump were just full on empty. They couldn't even get a bottle out of them.
Wow.
So I was like, dang,
that's nuts.
Like, yeah,
you couldn't get a bottle out of one barrel.
Oh yeah, it's just insane. So I don't know where they're pulling these from. If they had always planned to use them for this, or if it was just one of those things where they had premium aged stuff. And if you think about it, Brown-Forman really doesn't have a lot of premium aged, high proof, well aged stuff on the market, which is why I think this King of Kentucky has been so sought after.
I guess Woodford's doing their master with 16 years, some of their product.
Yeah, they had that stuff and they have their batch proof and other things like that, but they usually aren't releasing. I mean, that's always been an argument with some of those big guys. If they could ever release like premium aged product, I wonder how that would change the market, if at all. Like, what if there was a 12-year Woodford? We've talked about a 12-year Makers, like just being a standard product line extension. They probably can do it, but they don't.
So, Anthony, would you pass, try, or buy on the King of Kentucky 15-year-old bourbon?
Would you like me to go first, sir?
That is fine.
Okay, all right. Well, I've thought long and hard about this. When it comes to the King of Kentucky, I am going to be buying this if I can get it at retail all day.
I think that's the key with this bottle.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, are you done?
No. I want you to wrap, because I'm going to tell you about the secondary. I want to know what you think about it, because you know, $300 is still like, that's, we're just going to say whatever the $250, it's $300 that you can get at retail at minimum. And so, what do you think about it at that price? Like, I'm not even at this point in time, because this is probably one of the top 8 bourbons I've ever tasted in my entire life. It's probably one of the best I've tasted in 2022. So I'm buying at retail for sure.
What's realistically retail?
I do know that some places that have this for between $300 and $400. I won't say what I paid for it at the place I got it.
That's fine.
But I did not pay secondary for it. Secondary, like I said, is between $1,200 and $1,500.
So this is a 15-year-old product.
Yep,
a single barrel.
No.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's just I'm having a problem. I've kind of brought up how many bottles the other companies get from their like higher end products, how much they yield from those. At 400, we're basically, it seems like the price point of some of those other products is around the 1 to 150 range.
Again, if you can get them at retail.
Exactly. Yeah. And this doesn't even come close to the Willet Purple Tops that whenever they come available.
You mean in terms of what?
I mean, this is still cheaper in those.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So this falls in an interesting, I guess, bottle placement between the standard, like $100, $150, like high-end run-of-the-mill bottles and your real premium Purple Tops at the 800-plus mark.
Yep.
This is a tough one.
It's a tough one.
And how much is this going to be a pour at a restaurant?
Well, I do know that a Liquor Barn here in Lexington, which we'll give them a little shout out there, they're still an honest business for a big box. They put one of these on their tasting bar, and I think they were charging $40 for a pour.
Okay,
which I think is a 1 or 1.5 ounce pour. So that's,
but
I guess,
they don't
roughly
provide a steak or anything with that, do they? No.
No.
Can I get that to go?
You can get.
Can I go to a restaurant down the street and drink it there?
You can get chicken salad at Liquor Barn, and the reason
deli sandwich.
The reason I know that is because our friend over at the Bourbon Life podcast, Mark Rucker, goes for chicken salad all the time,
right?
And sometimes he ends up with good bottles.
That's true.
But no, I you should get steak with it for $40. But again, think about it. They're letting you taste something for still under what I think the secondary market price is. So
I'm fine with that pour price. It's just I really enjoyed this, but gosh, I'm trying to think of what I did if I went to a store and they had this, but had a $400 price point on it.
Oh, okay. I'm going to tell you, I'm still buying.
I know you're buying it.
Yeah.
Oh.
What's the upper limit of? So you're saying at $400 you might be gun shy.
I just don't know personally if I want to spend that much on anything, on any bottle.
That's fine.
So,
hey, we can't forget our roots, man. This is what we do. We're looking for reasonably priced stuff. This is a special night.
I'm gonna be a try.
Okay, you're a try.
Only reason is money.
I understand that.
Everything else, if this was a this is a $200 bottle.
Yep.
I would probably buy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I know what a liquor store is going to charge for this.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have a hard time swallowing that personally.
And hey, I get that, and I'm going to say this: I haven't always been a person that's appreciated the pricing on these premium products.
Yeah.
I will say a real estimation for me on this bottle. So if you had money to blow, and you were like, "I really want a King Kentucky,"
yeah.
should you pay $1,200 to $1,500 for this? The answer, in my opinion, is no.
Right.
Okay. I really think that if you're going to be into this bottle for a price that you could be excited about and still enjoy it and not feel like, geez, that was a waste of money or whatever, I think we're looking at something more like $800 to $1,000. That's really where I think, especially at $800 mark, if you had an exceptional bottle of this, and that's again with single barrel, I don't know how much variation there's. This is my first time.
I like that. That'd be great.
Like,
that'd be
really
fun. That'd be a fun flight.
Exactly. If you could, but I mean, this is realistically the first time I owned a bottle of this, that I've opened, and I just see a lot of people out there that the default is to sell, and I think the default is to sell because people really think like I could use that to buy 5 or 6 bottles of what I really like, right? You could get yourself probably 6 Weller 12s, right?
I wouldn't know what that feels like.
Exactly, right? And so I get the argument, but I also think that like this whiskey was produced for special moments, and
which I can't take anything away from that.
Yeah, you can't take anything away from that. You got
because before we even had this episode, I was celebrating something.
Yes, you were,
and I opened up a little GTS 19.
That's right. So, and the ultra, we're going to call this the ultra snob edition of our podcast because we fashion ourselves for being the everyday bourbon drinker, that products you can find. But yeah, Stephen, in celebration, the best pre-pour ever for an episode, opened up the GTS 19 and we had a little bit of a pour of that, and that was delicious.
Yes.
So that was a palate warmer for this King of Kentucky.
Yeah.
So, we kind of went away from our roots a little bit this episode.
You just can't, go cold into a 130, 130 proof. You got to come in with a 116.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the moral of the story there is when you're with your buddies, when you're celebrating good times and you got good bottles, you really should crack those bottles, especially if you got them for retail, because those memories are going to last a lifetime. And, you made a couple $100 here, you made a couple $100 there. Is that really worth it? Is it really worth like those memories you could have had? So I just think that's where we should close it up. Open those bottles and enjoy them. Enjoy them with friends and family.
And with that, thanks for listening to this week's edition. Please like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Mashup KY. Also, let us know your thoughts on this bottle in the comment section. Until next time, keep it neat.